Hi! Do you know when you just feel like you really don't have enough time to do all the stuff you need to do, so you decide to take on a new project? I saw Little Women recently, became obsessed with the clothes they're wearing, bought 2 really thick long wool skirts from secondhand shops immediately after, and now I've started an Instagram called the March Sisters Wardrobe. So if you've ever posted an outfit picture that was loosely inspired by Little Women, please tag me. Okay, now moving on to what this video is really about, which is 10 authors that I want to read more of. There are those kinds of readers who have read the entire, I don't know the word in English. In Dutch, it's oeuvre. It must be a variation of that, right? You know what I mean. Like the full list of books that an author has written. There's a lot of readers that have a few authors that they've read everything they've written. And I'm intrigued by that. And I haven't really done that with loads of authors. I've definitely read all of John Green's books. There must be a few more authors, especially who've only written like 2 or 3 books where I've read all of their books. But I went through my shelves and picked out a selection of authors whose full range of books I would love to read, because first of all, I've enjoyed the first books that I've read by them, but also because I kind of want to see the full spectrum of what they have to say and be able to compare them and recommend my favorites. And I'm also a person who likes to complete things, so, you know. I'm leaving our friend Jane Austen out of this list because that is a project on its own. Okay, we're starting with a YA author. She's an Irish author and her name is Moira Fowley-Doyle. So the only book I've read by her so far is The Accident Season. And I also have Spellbook of the Lost and Found and her new book, All the Bad Apples. I think her books are always set in Ireland and always have slight witchy vibes to them. So these are all 3 of the books she's written, so I'd like to have read all 3. Next up is Zadie Smith. Zadie Smith for me is a classic case of so many of the people around me love her writing, always recommend it to me. I used to work at Penguin Random House UK. Obviously, people talked about Zadie Smith all the time there. I was there when Swing Time was published, which I have read. That's the only full Zadie Smith novel I've read. I've read part of On Beauty, but over the years I've collected her full works, and because they always have such gorgeous spines, they're pretty much always at the front of my bookshelf as well. So I'd like to, you know, have read all of them. Swing Time I enjoyed, but it wasn't like an all-time favorite. I listened to that as an audiobook, and I do find that Zadie's writing is like quite dense. It's like so full of stuff that I almost have to read it with a bookmark on the page, like line by line. But you know, I'd like to read it all. And I do think that there might be some authors where once I'm 3 books in, and I find that I'm not enjoying it as much as I am, that I might, you know, not read their full works, but this is definitely one that's on the list. The next one's not going to be a surprise for anyone, probably, and it is John Wyndham. Does it help that Penguin published a gorgeous series? Yeah, I mean, yeah, that does help. Does it mean I have the full collection? There's a few other ones in a different spot. Yeah, it does. I just keep buying them. I've read The Chrysalids, I've read The Day of the Triffids, which I discovered at uni, read for a course, loved so much. What's the other one I've read? The Midwich Cuckoos. I want to read all of them and become a John Wyndham expert. Myself and Jean from Bookish Thoughts. I need to check actually which ones she's read so I can chat to her about them. Would you classify all of them as sci-fi? Bit dystopian, apocalyptic? But I love how subtle and understated his writing is. But the stories are just so like full impact. And I love it. Then Octavia E. Butler was a favorite of last year. I loved Kindred. And before that, I had read The Parable of the Sower, which is probably one of the most horrific books I've read, but amazing. Her writing is super gripping. You can read it so quickly, but it's also really, really hard-hitting. So she's also written the Lilith's Brood book trilogy, is that what it's called? The Lilith trilogy. And I need to read Parable of the Talons, which is a sequel to Parable of the Sower. And then there's a book called Fledglings. I definitely want to make my way through all of those. I'm gonna throw some classics out there. I'm gonna put all the Bronte sisters together because I'd love to read everything they've written. And that is something, again, that I might halfway through regret and go, actually, no thanks, I'm good. Obviously, I love Jane Eyre, so Vilette is just an example by Charlotte Bronte, but anything by the Bronte sisters Yes, please. Another author that I've just been collecting like beautiful editions by, although I think I might only have two, is H.G. Wells. I love sci-fi classics and I haven't read enough of them. I read the first Men in the Moon, the first Men in the Moon? On the Moon? In the Moon, I think. Again, for my degree, English Lit at uni, loved it. Was very intrigued by sci-fi written at a time when people hadn't gone into space yet. So even just talking about the moon was something that seems so far off to them. I actually don't know that much about what The Invisible Man is about. I guess it's about a man who becomes invisible. I forgot that he wrote War of the Worlds. Haven't read that either. And The Time Machine is one that I own and haven't read. I have plenty of his stuff to read, and a lot of it is also very short. But yeah, I would love to have read a big selection of what he's written. I have no idea how much he's written in total. Next up is Shirley Jackson. Can you tell that I'm not really into cheerful books? Again, like great gothic / horror writing. We've Always Lived in the Castle is the only one. No, that's not true. I read the short story, The Lottery, and I read one of the Penguin mini moderns, which had 3 short stories by her. So I've read this and some short stories. I lost my copy of The Haunting of Hill House somehow, so I need to get a new one. And then I have this one, which is her Dark Tales, which is a short story bundle. Again, also like quite dense writing, but the payoff was so worth it. Then there is Jeanette Winterson. She has written so much, and the only thing I've read is Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit and the sequel. Loved Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit. A coming of age story of a girl who's adopted into this very strict religious family. Things that happen in that book are sad, outrageous, hilarious. Really loved that. And I'm pretty sure she's written quite a variety of books when it comes to like subject matter and setting. And because of reading that one book and loving it, I would just randomly pick up some of her books in bookshops over the years. So look forward to reading more. And then there is Roxane Gay. This was an example I pulled off my shelves of one I haven't read by her, Difficult Women, which is short stories. I still haven't read Bad Feminist, I think. I read Hunger, which was an absolutely like harrowing memoir, but brilliantly written. And soon after reading that, I also saw her at an event where she did an interview and talked about her writing. Would just like to read everything she's written. Then there's an author who's like one particular series I'm a huge fan of, which is the Old Kingdom trilogy, which is a fantasy series. God, I just love it so much and I go on about it so much, but I'm just gonna keep doing that if you don't mind. And I haven't read any of his other stuff. I think there's more Old Kingdom books coming out soon. That was just announced. There is another book that he's writing coming out soon. Don't know if it's YA or adult, but this came out recently and it is Angel Mage by Garth. I just love his writing. I love his characters. I love the humor. I love the pace of it. I love the world building. So I need to branch out of that one series and try and read everything else he's written. Let me know if there is an author that you've read every single book by, because I'm curious how many people have actually done that, or if there's an author who you're pretty sure in the next few years you'll manage to read everything they've ever written. So, you know, I've got some reading to do. If you want to keep track of my reading, you can follow me on Goodreads, and you can also follow me on Instagram at Books and Quills, and I hope to see you soon. Thanks for watching. Doei!